Let's take a look at these 10 places throughout Ohio that are haunted. The Ohio State Reformatory is located in Mansfield, Ohio. Even though it no longer operates as a prison, the Ohio State Reformatory still manages to attract attention. Over the years, the Ohio State Reformatory has seen its share of violence. The harshest of the violence were often associated with the area of the prison known as the Hole. There are stories of prisoners attempting or succeeding in hanging themselves. One prisoner even set himself on fire while in solitary confinement. It is no wonder that the area known as the Hole is haunted. Over the years, footsteps and muffled voices have been heard even though there is no one else in the area. There are several spots throughout the prison that visitors have experienced unusual activities such as touches, cold spots, heard whispering, and images on cameras. The Wicker Ham Inn is located in Adams County. The Wicker Ham Inn was built in the late 1790 by a Revolutionary War veteran, Peter Wickerham. Wickerham wanted to capitalize on the increase of travelers in the area due to the Zane Trace Road. The road was the first official road in the Northwest Territory. After spending some time in the tavern, which was located in the inn, a driver was bragging about a large sum of money he was carrying before he turned in for the night. When the driver did not come down to check out the next morning, an inn employee was sent to his room and discovered a horrible sight. The room was covered in blood. A headless outline of the driver was created when the blood seeped into the floorboards, but there was no body. Wickerman ordered an employee to scour the floors to remove the outline, which was unsuccessful. Many say the blood stain is still there to this day. The ghost of the driver began making himself known shortly after. The silhouette of a headless man was seen by people in the upstairs window. Today the inn is privately owned, but neighbors and nearby residents still claim to have seen the headless silhouette looking out the window. Camp Chase is located in Columbus, Ohio, which served as a Confederate prison camp. There were over 2,000 deaths due to poor condition and disease. Majority of the men were buried in the prison cemetery. People would think the haunting would be that of soldiers buried in the cemetery, but instead it is of a woman in gray. The woman in gray has been seen walking in the cemetery. She appears to be young and dressed in a gray traveling suit from the Civil War era. She is often seen standing over the grave of Benjamin Allen. After the woman is spotted at the grave, flowers appear lying next to the tombstone. The mournful weeping of a woman was heard during a Civil War reenactment near the cemetery. No source of the weeping was ever found. Some say she is the bride of Benjamin weeping over the reunion that never happened. Some say she made the trip to the cemetery before she died. The Buxton Inn is located in Licking County, Ohio. The inn is known as one of the oldest continually operating inns in Ohio. The inn was built in 1812 by Orrin Granger, which it served as a post office and stagecoach stop. Major Buxton operated the inn in the mid-1800s. He ran the operation until shortly after the turn of the century. Bonnie Bunnell was innkeeper until her death in the 1960s. The Buxton Inn is haunted by several ghosts which are former owners or innkeepers. Orrin Granger is said to make an appearance at the inn. He is described as an elderly man wearing old-fashioned breeches. He has also been accused of stealing pies from the pantry. Major Buxton has also taken up residence at the inn. He is spotted mostly in the dining room. Guests have no trouble recognizing the Major because his portrait hangs at the inn. Also, Bonnie Bunnell has taken up residence at the inn. Her spirit is referred to as the Lady in Blue. This is based on her often appearing in a blue dress. Bonnie died in a room at the inn. She is known to frequent other areas of the inn, often preceded by a sweet smell of perfume. There is one final ghost guest, which is a phantom cat. This ghost is often seen wandering the hallways and entering some rooms. Beaver Creek State Park is located in Columbiana County, Ohio. The ruins of a canal system built in the 1800s are located inside the state park. The canal system has two locks that are said to be haunted. The first lock that is haunted is said to be Jake's Lock. Jake was killed by a lightning strike when making his rounds along the top of the lock. It is said that Jake returns especially on stormy nights with his ghostly lantern to continue his evening's work. The second lock that is haunted is said to be Gretchen's Lock. Gretchen came to Ohio with her father, who was an engineer who worked on this lock. Shortly after arriving in Ohio, Gretchen contracted malaria. She had her father promise if she died, he would return her body to be buried alongside her mother. After Gretchen's death, her father had her coffin loaded onto a ship bound for her homeland, but the ship was lost at sea. Gretchen, pleading to rejoin her mother, makes an appearance at the lock every year on the anniversary of her death. The Ashtabula train disaster happened in Ashtabula County, Ohio. In December of 1876, a trestle collapsed when the Pacific Express was crossing, dumping the train in the icy waters below. 92 of the 160 passengers and crew perished in the accident. 25 corpses are interned at the nearby Chestnut Grove Cemetery. After the inquest into the incident, 2 suicides followed. One was the bridge engineer, who was interned at the cemetery. A couple years later, the designer and architect killed himself. Visitors to the memorial who take photographs find odd things in their pictures. Men and women in period clothing are spotted among the tombstones. Also, a man thought to be the bridge engineer is seen weeping by the memorial. Lucy Run Road and Batavia Cemetery are located in Claremont County, Ohio. Lucy's parents ended up settling in Claremont County on their journey west because of the good in the fields. Lucy's father built their cabin along a sizable creek. Lucy became engaged at the proper age, which was no surprise with her being especially attractive and promising. Then disaster struck. Lucy's fiancé rode to the cabin in a thunderstorm to tell her the bad news. The news was that he met someone else and was in love with the other woman and that the engagement was off. After he rode away, Lucy then mounted her horse and rode after him in the thunderstorm. Missing the bridge because visibility was almost impossible, Lucy rode into the swollen creek. Lucy was thrown from her horse and swept away and drowned in the muddy water. Since then, travelers have been startled by a figure in white dashing across the road to evaporate before their eyes at the gate of the Batavia Cemetery where Lucy is buried. The Coshocton County Cemetery is located near West Lafayette, which is a village in Coshocton County, Ohio. The cemetery is supposedly haunted by a woman named Mary Stockham. Stockham's second husband killed her daughter. When her husband was hung, Mary vowed revenge. One by one, the remaining 9 kids started dying, apparently from a fever. The town fathers had Mary burned as a witch when the 5th child died. After the 6th child died, they dug Mary up and cut off her head and buried her head outside the cemetery. To this day, people have seen Mary searching for her head and her children. The Kelton House, located in Columbus, Ohio, is now a museum. This home was built in 1854 for Fernando and Sophia Kelton and remained in their family for 3 generations. Several members of the Kelton family from these generations are believed to still haunt the house. Both Fernando and Sophia have been seen in the house, with Sophia known to greet visitors, while Fernando tends to cause them to bump into him before disappearing. Their eldest son died when he was just 18 years old while fighting for the Union, and he has repeatedly been seen inside and outside of the house in his uniform. The last Kelton to live in the house, Grace, an interior designer, has also been seen and felt throughout the house. Items have gone missing only to turn up in odd spots, and furniture that is rearranged has a tendency to be put back when the staff returns the next day. The Woodland Cemetery is located in Ironton, Ohio. This cemetery has 3 hauntings. The first is of a young woman whose husband killed her by throwing her down a flight of stairs. The life-size statue of the woman stands over her grave. A handprint appears on her cheek even after the cheek has been sandblasted. The statue is supposed to be warm all the time, even in the coldest months. The second haunting is of a Russian ballerina. The ballerina's likeness is carved into the mausoleum. On nights with a full moon, it is said you can see her dancing outside the mausoleum. The third haunting is of Dr. Joseph Lowery. Dr. Lowery is seeking revenge for his murder. Dr. Lowery is often seen with his mother, who died from a broken neck when she was thrown from her carriage by a spooked horse. They are seen walking together toward the cemetery gates.